Hey everybody, massive howler on my behalf when it came to the predicted lineup. I did not check if the video and audio came through. I just sort of uploaded it straight away and then jetted off to do some things. So I do apologize. Just shows how amateur I can be sometimes. But massive howler on my part. Here is your very late predicted lineup. It still felt like I should put it out anyways for you guys, but I will try to rush through things for you. Again, big apologies on my behalf. We're going with Vicario and goals, of course. I said in the video, which you obviously didn't hear, ranted a bit about, Vicario in this one. But my main point is that technically, in my opinion, we would not even be in this Europa League final if it weren't for Vicario's performance in that first leg away from home against AZ Alkmaar. But more importantly, he definitely needs to be very strong in this game when it comes to set pieces. He needs to be assertive, no flapping about, no parrying it when he can catch it, needs to try to assure his back line that he can be a guy that can be relied upon to come out, be brave, grab those crosses. Don't make any sort of silly sort of kind of blocks or parries that end up just going straight back towards someone's path. And if need be, pump it long, please, Vicario, because sometimes he can just sort of be, I don't know, maybe just too loyal to the system, too loyal to the instructions when it comes to playing out from the back. Even when the pass isn't there, when the only option is to go long, he still tries to thread through the pass. But in the Europa League games, I think he's been a bit more no nonsense. So when the time comes for it, just pump it long, please, Vic, so that we don't have to take any unnecessary risks and give United any sort of chances that come from our own behalf. But let's move it on here to the fullbacks. I've gone for Pedro Porro. Spurs will be missing plenty of creative players for this game. Madison, Bergvall, Kulusevski. But Pedro Porro does have it in his locker that maybe, the likes of Madison and others would. But he has that chip ball over the top. He can play big, long diagonals if need be. He can play those incisive passes, those line breaking passes through the midfield. If we are being put under pressure, he's that bit of quality, a bit of ingenuity about him. So he can be that filler for the creative void that will be in this game, with Madison being gone. And I just feel like, in this game, we need him to be strong defensively because he could be coming up against a Garnacho, probably, I would think, on that left wing, who, in my opinion, I think is actually pretty good in those 1v1s. He also needs to be aware of those big, long diagonals that United will likely play over the top of his head because they're going to try to attack those wide areas. They play that 3-4-3 shape. And then that means, someone like Pedro Porro could probably be targeted in this game. So, two things for Pedro. He definitely should be able to help us with that creative void. He has a brilliant cross on him. He also has a really good shot on him. Plenty of people predicted a Pedro Porro banger for this game, but then also he needs to be switched on defensively. We're going to move it on to left back. Udogi, of course, he's put in some very strong displays, I think, in Europe, especially. And I think he's been a very good willing runner, both in possession and sort of without the ball at his feet. With the ball at his feet, he's that guy who's willing to take on a few players, just drag you up the pitch by carrying it down the touchline. Or, when there's been, the ball at the winger's feet, he's a guy that's a willing overlapping run. He can make that overlapping run just to keep that fullback of the opposition team honest and just to have to give them something more to think about. So I think in the Europa League, he's put in some really strong performances for us, but also he's been very strong defensively, in my opinion, as well. Him and Sonny, I wouldn't say have had the best of connection if Sonny and him were to play together in this game, but let's hope that they can combine well because I think if they're both on form, if they both are playing off of each other well, they could be devastating together. You have that pace and that dynamism, that guy who's just willing to take players on, run down the touchline in the case of Udogi. Then you have someone who, of course, has a bit of pace in his game as well, but has that devastating quality on his day in Sonny. So let's hope that they can combine well together, and we should have a very, very threatening left side. Going on to the center backs here, we're going to go with the right side first. Romero, I would love to see a Ron Bomber in this game from a set piece. He's probably been our best set piece threat this season, probably next to Bentancur. Played a crucial part in winning that header that then Solanke was able to finish off. And like Porro, though, I think he can be that filler for that creative void in this game. He's one of our best passers of the ball, in my opinion, in general in this team. And so he can be a guy that can get moves started by playing those line breaking passes through the opposition midfield. And he also has that ability, again, like Pedro Porro, just look up, maybe see beyond the opposition backline, play that little chip ball over the top or that big long diagonal to switch play as well. We need Romero in this game to show some leadership as well. He's a World Cup winner. He's been in these massive games before. Need him to step up for this one and potentially become a hero for Tottenham Hotspur. Let's move on to left-sided center back. We're going with Van de Ven. You wonder how much we might need his recoveries pace in the game like this, because if we end up pushing Man United back, there's every chance that they will look to then hit us on the counter, right? So we need to make sure that in a game like this, the Van de Ven, his hamstrings are absolutely, spot on for this one, and he's able to bail us out if need be, because they will look to probably hit us on the counter with the likes of Garnacho, Rasmus Hoyland, guys who do have some pace that will be looking to try to get him behind the back line. It'd also be amazing to see another Mickey Van de Ven style run one last time before the end of the season, because if the situation calls for it, I'm pretty sure he'll take it. He had that incredible assist, one of the best moments of the season, I think, against Man United, where he played it, across the goal to Brennan Johnson. What a goal that was. And hopefully maybe get a vintage Mickey Van de Ven run in this game. We're going to go to the midfielders now, kind of two conversations, to be had with Basuma Bentancur, but we're going for like a 4-2-4 shape. I think, we can learn something from what we saw against Aston Villa. I think in this game, Ange Postecoglou is going to have to rely on the fact that he has more depth up front than he really does in the midfield. So I'm making a big, bold call. And I'm going to say that he's going to go for a similar type of shape and formation to what he did against Aston Villa, like a 4-4-2, 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it, probably 4-4-2 out of possession, 4-2-4 in possession. But with Basuma, we've been seeing the best of him, I think, recently, especially defensively. I think we have. Thought he was immense against Bodo Glimt in both games, defensively making some crucial challenges, both near our penalty area, in the midfield, and then also very high up the pitch. And I think when he is sharp, when he is focused, he anticipates when to intercept and also when to turn the ball over in really good areas without actually fouling the player. And I just need him in this game, though, to be very sharp on the ball, because I think he has that tendency to play a lackadaisical pass when he easily could have just played a different one, or he could have picked his head up and could have found a pass more forward. Or he has that tendency as well to have a very loose touch from time to time. So we need him to be sharp, need him to be focused, because when that happens, sort of loose, lackadaisical touches or passes, it can lead to unnecessary chances and forced, your own forced mistakes that then lead to the moments for the opposition team, or unforced mistakes, should I be saying. But he's popped up with a lot of shooting chances as well, I'd say, in recent games. So I think, if he gets that opportunity once again at the top of the penalty area, maybe he might bury it in this game. Because you think about it, in recent games, this guy's had a lot of shots from what I, at least I can recall from our recent performances, especially in the Bodo Glimt games. I thought he had plenty of chances actually to score. Dare I say, maybe could have at least gotten one of those on target to force a good save out of the keeper. So, look out for that. Maybe at the top of the penalty area, we might get another chance for our man Basuma. Let's go to Bentancur. We need the best from Benton class, need that smooth first touch, need that smooth decision making to calm the nerves of our players in these opening minutes. Also, as well, I would say, like in kind of a similar mold to Basuma, I think Bentancur, when he is sharp defensively, does again a very good job, similar to Basuma, putting his foot into a challenge without actually fouling a player, which then leads again to really good turnovers for us to then transition quickly and potentially, see out a dangerous attack. And I think Bentancur has that good eye for danger defensively. I think he mops up really well when he is having a good game, in my opinion. Need him to be strong in the air in this game as well. I think he's a set piece threat for us, like Romero, but then he also needs to be able to help deal with some of the set piece threats of United, like someone like a Harry Maguire, for example, who I think can hurt us, in this game. He's a very, very brave player, Bentancur, has that smooth sort of, play style that I think can settle down people in those first opening minutes. So let's hope we're talking about a Benton class performance, Mercedes Benton class, as Dave likes to say. Going on to the wingers, I've gone for Sonny on the left in this game. Again, I've alluded that I'm going to go with a 4-2-4 type situation, something similar shape that we saw from the likes of the Aston Villa game. I do feel like that, though, the Sun situation isn't that similar to the Kane Morris situation, and I'll explain why. I just don't think there is anybody in this forward line that you could say had like a, obviously there's no one that had a hat trick, off of the bench, similar to Lucas Moura did in the Ajax semifinal. But I don't even think anybody across this forward line has really been playing that well in recent. Like, as much as I like Odebear, as much as I like Tell, I would say they've been kind of meh recently in recent games. And I'd say Johnson as well, hasn't necessarily been that devastating or that high of quality. So I think you have to go with, in theory, your highest quality player in possession and also your captain in Sun. So I feel like you just have to go with the guy that, is potentially, your best players still, on paper at least. We need Sonny to take his chances though in a game like this. There have been times I think this season when he just ends up taking the wrong option, takes too long, to choose what to do in an attacking situation, or just ends up wasting the chance in general. So we need him to be clinical, and it's an opportunity as well for him to go down in folklore and history and potentially win this trophy, win a massive major trophy that him and his mate Harry Kane did not, because Harry Kane unfortunately was never able to deliver a trophy here at Tottenham Hotspur. Could Sonny in potentially his final year or two be able to do that without the likes of Harry Kane? I think that would definitely etch him down into further folklore and history. Similar to the likes of Johnson, though, who I have criticized for this in the past. I think Sonny, though, sometimes lacks that enthusiasm when it comes to the press, when it comes to tracking back and helping out his fullback. Need him to sacrifice in this game, need him to muck in and help out his fullback Destiny Udogie, because there will be periods when they will look to attack those wide areas with that 3-4-3 shape of theirs and try to hurt us down the flank. So we need Sonny to muck in defensively for us. Let's move over to the right side with Brennan Johnson, who I just mentioned when it comes to the defensive work rate. I think Johnson, in terms of our right wing options, is probably the most deserving of a start in this game. I don't think he's been that brilliant recently, but as much as I like Wilson Odobert, I don't think he's really shown enough in recent games to warrant a start. Whereas Johnson, I think still, of course, has that knack to be at the right place at the right time to score. My big ask, though, of Johnson, right, is like I brought up with Sonny, is that I feel like he needs to try his best in this game to mimic the work rate that you see from Richarlison, that you see from Solanke out of possession. We need everyone to muck in, help each other out. And again, I just feel like Johnson sometimes lacks that willingness or want or maybe even fitness. I'm not sure, to try to help out his fullback and either, tracking back with him to give them that extra bit of support, or sometimes even when we are in the middle of a press, see Johnson is very late to get to it. Either he just doesn't anticipate it well, or he's just trying to get away with maybe catching a breath or two. I'm not too sure, but we need him to muck in defensively for us for these 90 minutes, and then he can have the rest of the summer off after that. But let's go up top. As I've said, I've gone for a 4-2-4 type of shape here. I think it will be Richarlison and Solanke together. I think they've played very, very well together. My personal opinion, I don't think you should be breaking that up. Of course, it's not really as much about my personal opinion. It's about what I think Ange will go with. I'm pretty sure Ange is not going to break up this partnership that they struck together in these games. I think they both have worked well together. You get two very hard-working players out of possession in these two. They work tirelessly to either initiate the press, but also to make life difficult for teams to try even play out from the back in general to get moves started. They're always closing down angles. They're always forcing the center backs into difficult passes that they don't want to make. And as well, when we look at them kind of from, in possession, when we are trying to play out, Richarlison and Solanke together can give us that option to go long if need be. When you are trying to play out from the back and you just feel like, what, this is, too dangerous now at this point. Just pump it long, try to get it out of here just so that you're not taking any unnecessary risks. And then I think you have, a good threat in Solanke and Richarlison together, because when you only have one big man up front, you have less of a chance of them being able to win the header, try to bring it down on the second ball, or even just try to hold it up in general when you got three center backs back there trying to battle for it. When you have these two big guys up front, I think you give yourself a good chance of being able to pump it long, but then be able to retain it high up the pitch and then potentially lead to a dangerous transition and an attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see the likes of Richarlison and Slanky together. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Richarlison contribute to a goal in this game. I think he's been playing pretty well of recent. And like I said earlier, I don't think anyone's been that amazing in the forward line, but dare I say, I think Richarlison's probably been the best in recent games. With Solanke, I think he will be our penalty taker if we do get a penalty in this game. And he scored some massive goals for us in this Europa League run. Can he do it one last time for us and finish this season on a huge high? We need him to be, though, smart in possession. He can't hold on to it too long when he does receive it. Sometimes he has that tendency to. He ends up taking it past a player or two, but then he ends up holding on to it just a little bit too long, in my opinion. He needs to use his wingers, needs to use Sonny, needs to use Johnson. But if he ends up, scoring another goal in the Europa League, you have to look back on his season. It's not been that flattering in the Premier League. But when it comes to these big, massive Europa League games, this guy really has stepped up and has been able to deliver some really, really crucial goals. And we know he's going to work his tail off for us out of possession, just like Richarlison. But there's your predicted lineup there, everybody. Once again, I apologize for the sound and everything not working. Major error on my part, major howler. Let's hope for no major howlers from our own team tonight. Let's see them get the job done in a much more professional manner than what I did in the previous run of this predicted lineup. Appreciate you all. Thank you all. And come on, you Spurs. Massive game tonight. We'll see you all there for the pre match build up and for the watch along. See you soon. Come on, you Spurs, baby.